Hello, sports fans. This is Howard Cosell. No, it's not Howard Cosell. Sorry. How's everybody doing this evening? uh, it is Saturday after a very, very rainy and tumultuous Friday in North Texas. Really a crazy, crazy day yesterday. But so far, so good here. Um, didn't seem like I don't think we had any fatalities in the area. Had a lot of damage east of Dallas, but overall, I'd say we made it through another one. I mean, this part of the world that is a norm. Unfortunately, it's a way of life. Um, but the tools are so much better now to watch, on your phone, the radar, and all these kind of things. So um, I lived through one in Rowlett, which is where I used to live. We had it about 6 years ago on the day after Christmas, and it missed our place by less than a mile, and it ripped through several hundred homes, killed, I think, 8 people, all on a highway, ironically, not in any homes. A lot of people were gone because of the holiday, which was very fortuitous. But lived through the devastation of what that can do to a community. But anyway, we're not here to talk about tornadoes. We're not here to talk even about the Wizard of Oz. We're going to be talking a little bit about this. Can't buy a thrill. So, and apparently you can buy a thrill. This one was $30, for example. Anyway, so the reason I wanted to bring this up, I hadn't planned to go live tonight, hadn't planned to hit this topic today, but I'll talk about kind of the sequence of events that led me to this and what I'm going to kind of be focusing on and give you an idea of what's coming up for the next few days. I'm going to be heading out of town on Monday. I'm heading to Orlando to give a talk at a symposium at a conference. I've got to give a talk, and then I'm on a panel the next day. Not audio related, it's safety related, actually, which is kind of my safe and sound, the safe and sound thing, the safety side. So I'm going to a human behavior conference, speaking at a human factors conference, which I did 3 years ago when they had their inaugural one in 2019, and it was supposed to be an annual thing, but didn't turn out to be annual because of COVID, obviously. So finally returning back to get back into that. So I guess I've got to spend a little time practicing for that. I'm kind of like, I don't know if you ever heard the story about Jackie Gleason, the great one, when he was doing his show, and he also did the Honeymooners, which, if you don't know, the Honeymooners was the 50s comedy sketch done, half-hour sketch, which was the precursor and the inspiration for the Flintstones, the two couples that lived near each other. And Fred and Wilma were Ralph and Alice, and then Barney and his wife Betty were Norton and Trixie, essentially. And so they kind of played off each other. But anyway, the reason I brought him up, Jackie Gleason didn't rehearse. He never wanted to rehearse. The spontaneity of doing things live, was greater for him. And I find it that way too, not to practice too much, but when you've got a presentation, obviously you got to follow the script a bit. So you have to kind of work it out. So anyway, if you have any comments to post, please do so in there. Loki Theo, hello. Head-to-head live with Ricefield Records. Bold move. Hey, John Bandy, how are you? Yeah, well, as I said, guys, this was done in the last hour. I kind of decided I wanted to do something to get it up there because I don't really have a lot of time to sit and prepare a video in the normal way for this topic because of my travel. So I decided if I do it live, I leave it up, then I get the same effect. So glad to have you guys. Everybody's cool beans. But I've made no secret that I've been awaiting this release of Steely Dan's catalog for a long time. I'm a big fan of Steely Dan's, and actually Can't Buy a Thrill is really my favorite of their albums. I mean, they changed style quite a bit as they went through from this original first album, the evolution of their material and their writing, and, the jazzy kind of imprint that it started to have later on. And I like some of that as well. But to me, this is like how many albums do you know that you can say, hey, all 10, 12, whatever tracks are really solid? So, I just really have always, this has been in my top 5 albums. I can listen to it and never really get tired of it. And there aren't many records that are that way for most people. And I know for me, that's true. So when I heard that this was going to be released through Analog Productions, that was another nail in the coffin for me to visit Chad up in Salina, Kansas, because, it's so endearing to me. Hey, Alex Dickey, how you doing, buddy? I was really sick this last week with upper respiratory issues from allergies. And I was in bad shape for a good part of this past week. So the whole week, nothing really went as planned. Today was really the first day I got out very much. And so I picked up the 33 RPM Geffen release of this. Just seems weird seeing it on Geffen, not on ABC or MCA or whatever. But anyway, so I happened to pick that up while I was out at my buddy G.I. Sanders, who has a place called NTX Vinyl. He has 3 places here in the DFW area. There's ntxvinyl.com. You can buy from him direct as well. Did an interview with him. Great guy. Had a setup at a city, like a festival today, and had some great selections. I picked up a few things. I'll get up and show you what I got. But he had this one. He only had one, literally. And I got there when they were opening, and I said, hey, you got the new Steely Dan released yesterday? Guy looked over, and it was at the front of the S's. He said, this one? He handed it to me. I took it, and then I saw GI. He said, that's the only one I got. The other couple I have are at the shop. And then I went to Josie Records, which is a huge shop here in Dallas after that, and they were out of them. They said they got slammed yesterday. So, obviously it's pretty enticing, $30, the UHQR is obviously 150. We'll talk about that. But that's why my little thumbnail is kind of queer, and it says, hey, is this worth 150? And I scratched that out and I said, is it worth 30? Because the 150 one I should get tomorrow. It should be here between 9 and 2, according to FedEx. And on a Sunday. Yeah, the OG pressings do sound great. But I will tell you, we're going to talk about this one. This one is a little different. I can honestly say that even in spite of some of the criticisms and discussions I'm going to have about this particular pressing or this particular mastering, the change in some of the sound here in terms of some of the instrumentation being drawn in to where you hear things you didn't hear before sounds almost a bit like you could almost think, did they remix it as well, which they didn't. But I mean, in other words, it has that profound of a difference in some ways. For me to buy something that expensive, one album, I don't do it very often, but this is in my top 5. So, I mean, I was going to do it. There's no way around it. I've been waiting for an audiophile release of this literally for decades, because I want, Mobile Fidelity to do it years ago, and it never hit. And then Speaker's Corner did it in 2004, somewhere in that. And I didn't even know it. I had no idea. I didn't know at the time who Speaker's Corner was. Now, ironically, you see, I've got a bunch of Speaker's Corner's records up here. That's what that label up there is, Speaker's Corner. And the reason they're up there is I did an interview with their president, Kai Siemann, out of Germany yesterday. And so I'll be posting that video in a few days, my interview of him. Interesting guy, interesting label, great story, and kind of is going to give you some insight about what's going on in the industry right now for labels like him, which are reissue labels, and that's all they do. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm gabbing and not reading here. I'm sorry. I'll catch up here in a minute. Boy, Alex, I did not hear him say Nat. Did he say that in my interview? If he did, I missed it, or if I'm not remembering it. I think just clarify for me where you heard it, just so I can, because there was a section of one of the songs that he said that the sax solo sounded and I didn't know the word was nasty, but there was something in there that didn't sound the way it should. I know he had that issue. That's for sure. Because Chad had Can't Buy a Thrill. He had Bernie Grunman do the master 7 different lacquers before he bought off on the 7th one. And that usually doesn't happen. He said, I have the budget to do it. I can do it. I'm still not satisfied. And there were certain things in certain songs that he was listening for improving. I don't want to say correcting, but improving from the original. So he may have made a statement about a section of a song that he thought didn't sound like it should or how it could. And I believe that, but I don't believe he ever made an overt statement about the OG sounding nasty, because we sat there. I mean, I listened to them and I think they really sounded good. He had the white label promo of it. So, but I think there were certain areas of it where he was really looking to strengthen that aspect of the song. And I know the sax on Dirty Work was one of them. Unless Big and Chad become deaf, I can't see. Okay. So, okay, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's the OG. I mean, I don't think it's fabulous. It's a bit masked, I guess I would say, is what I would say. Yeah, great point, NeoSync. Can't Buy a Thrill. Prices on OGs are crazy high. That's right. Yeah, the shows I've been at recently, they're running $60 to $100. Okay, I mean, I can tell you that right now. I paid. Let me go show you here one. So, where's it at? See, I got all these. I've got a yellow ABC label one. I've got an actual yellow vinyl, the Canadian version. I've got a 4-channel version, which is a QS version. I've got the early ABC, that's an OG. I've got an ABC with the letter blocks on it, which look like kids' building blocks. I've got the Probe, which is the UK. Okay. So, I mean, when I'm going to tell you guys about the differences, I'm going to have a lot of material to compare it to. This is, I've got probably 12 different pressings of this album. So, so when I say what I say, at least it's got some frame of reference, I guess I would say. But you're right. The OGs are very high priced. Let's see. Okay, so somebody's sending one Fliegel Sangria sending it to Patrick. Now, of course, Patrick digitizes it, but he has a very high-end, I forget what they call it, sugar cube or something, a very high-end system with. Well, okay, so Neo, so we'll get into now. I've got 50. That's great, 52 people. So, all right. So, as I've told you, I got the 33 1/3 Geffen release. So, okay, this was pressed at Precision in Canada, and when you hear Precision in Canada, just understand that's GZ Media's plant, the Czech Republic company that makes discs in Czech Republic. That's their pressing plant. Okay. And GZ Media is also the plant who pressed the Revolver remix that I got last week, which is noisy. So the first thing I will tell you is surface noise on this. It's there. It's it's your first impression of this album is, wow, that groove is noisy. Because you don't hear anything at first, right? So I put the volume at maybe 10%. If you were going to dial in increments, it was probably at about 10%, so fairly low. And immediately, the song "Do It Again" is the first track. It's a great first track, first single. Great instrumentation, percussion. I mean, the song, I don't have to tell you. And it's a hot way to start an album. And so it starts and it pushes me back, literally. I'm like, whoa, that's loud. So I even went and looked, like, where the hell did I set the volume on this thing? And I'm looking, it's like, no, that's no louder than I intended to do it. And so I stepped back. And the percussion in it had an openness to it, is the only word I can use. The congas and all those instruments they use, there was like I don't want to call it an echo effect, but an open effect, like it breathed, like the sound breathed. And that sounded like I expected it to sound because of having experienced something like that when I heard it earlier. So I thought, okay, that's great, but why is it so? It's so much, and it was just very. I don't want to use the word immersive, because I wasn't immersed. I was overwhelmed. Because I knew what I was kind of expecting to hear, but it just overpowered me to the point of annoyance, to the point of, I don't know how to put it. I was just like, it was almost, this really sounds extreme. It's almost like my ears started bleeding. It was like, to me, it really didn't sound good. It sounded like, whoa, who turned up the hot cut? Were they trying to cut this hot? Did they increase it 2 or 3 dB? Or what did they do to master this onto vinyl, to put it onto lacquer? What happened? And then I go, oh, I forgot. This was a master done on audio, on analog tape, and then a digital file was used for actually going and cutting the lacquer. So it's like, okay, God knows what happened. Yeah, those are speakers corners back there, by the way. Yeah, thanks. So it is different. Something else could have happened to that digital file before it went to the lacquer. They EQ'd it up, they compressed it. It felt like there was compression of some kind. It also felt like there were dynamics, and I don't mean dynamic range, like the range of really having, because the range felt somewhat compressed, but what was there kind of felt pushed out at you, like dynamics as in loud. And so that's the the thing about the 7 times. Yeah, it was not just that it was real detailed. It was that Chad had some very specific things in certain songs that he was looking for to get nailed. And I think he just really, like he said, he had the budget. He said he could do it. He said, this is the first one. I want to hit a home run. So, and I think he expended his wad for that to get it as much as they wanted. And I will tell you, even with this pressing, even with this release, you will hear amazing things. You will hear things you never heard before. You will hear the detail you've never heard before. But it's not an enjoyable listen to me. It's just too much. It's just too hot. I mean, I don't know whether there's any other way to put it. And I went and took it, put it off, and I put on my OG. And although it didn't have all that expansive kind of new nuance, it didn't hurt to listen to it. This was just too much. And I don't know any other way to put it. I just don't know any other way to describe it. And that's why I put in the thumbnail, is it worth the $30? Because it's like, I don't want to keep this thing. I have no desire to keep this. Only as an example of how badly something can sound. And I don't know what caused it. I mean, I don't know. Was it the digital to analog or analog to digital conversion? Was it some post processing that was done? We don't know. We don't know. Bernie gave them, those are two separate contracts. Bernie worked for Universal on the 33 cut and to provide them a remaster. And he provided one to Chad with Chad's approval. So they had two different approvals. So there's not, I don't even think we can say that, the one Chad asked for and got, the seventh one, that's the one Universal got. I don't think that's true at all. I think these were probably two different contracts. So because I did ask Chad this afternoon, he doesn't know how they went about whatever they went about. So there's not a hey Novus Nick, good to see you. It was good to see you online today. I saw you this morning. Great that you were on the show there. No, I don't think you're going to hear it with the. I'm sure I'm not going to hear it on the analog UHQR. And I don't. Here's the thing, guys and gals. I don't want to sit here and start going, oh well, it's because it's digital, and I don't know why. I don't know why. But I know I've never been annoyed by very many records and the way they sounded. But this one, and again, this one I know all too well, and it maybe that's the thing. I'm super sensitized, but I was just, man. I mean, I didn't play the side two for a couple of hours. I just waited. I was like, oh my gosh. And to beat it all, within the first minute, there were two really loud pops and ticks that were almost like scratches. And I cleaned it twice and they didn't come out. And then the surface noise between the tracks, and then you could hear the inner groove distortion. You could hear the beginning of the next song, how you get that inner wall kind of lead in you hear. So, that's just not a great cutting job, in my opinion. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't, I'm not going to get rid of any of mine. The only one I might, like I said, I might keep this, only because it's kind of like, well, I could to the AB, right? To have an AB. That's the reason I would keep it. But to say it's going to go on my turntable for me to listen to, But I will tell you, the stuff that came out from what Bernie did in terms of drawing out better sound within the recording is unbelievable. It is great. It's poignant enough to say some of it almost sounds like you could say it was a remix because they juiced up something a little more in terms of it being more visible or audible than it was before, but it isn't. But I mean, it's that poignant. So, there's no doubt that the nature of the remaster is great, but what happened to it to make the Universal, and hey, time is money. This is a $30 record. The other's a double album, 45 RPM on Clarity vinyl. I mean, we're talking apples and oranges. So I'm not here saying that I should have expected more for $30 in terms of maybe the sound of the vinyl and the noise and all. Okay, that's standard retail stuff. But the fact that it was that, that really just turned me off. I mean, and I really didn't like that. Yeah, great point here about who did the digital transfer. Yeah, because you don't know, you don't know. You got to go to PCM to do anything to it, right? If you're gonna, if you're gonna do any kind of editing or any kind of work on it, it's got to come out of DSD and go to PCM. And we don't know it was DSD. We just know it was high res audio. We don't know. No one's ever specified the term DSD of anybody in the knowledge chain who really knows. And nobody at Universal has talked about this at all. Nobody's talked to Bernie or asked him. Chad was like, I don't have any idea. I thought maybe, the contract that it was like Bernie's going to do it. Once he's done with yours, he's going to. And then I thought, why would they do that? Why would like Analog Productions pick the best of the best that it wanted and then hand it off? I mean, those are two separate contracts for Bernie to work on. Now, he had the benefit of doing a lot of, man, can you imagine how tired he was listening to this album? Oh, my God. But he had the benefit of doing it, for multiple customers. But, probably, it was one and done for Bernie. Maybe the first one he did for Chad, that was the first one and they took it and that was it. I don't know. Let me look here. I'm just trying to get... Yeah, send it to Patrick. Sure. Yeah, no, I'd be interested. I'm just one person with my set of ears, and I'm just sharing my experience. There are a couple of reviewers out there who have, and I mean, these seem like new channels, small amount of people. I mean, I'm not, but they seem to like it a lot more than the original. And I get that in terms of, impact. It really jumps off the platter and literally into your lap. And so if you like it, if dynamic as in hot is what you like, you're going to like this album. But if you have a sensitivity to analog and maybe a little bit of that's got a little bit of a little bit of ear fatigue for me because it has some digital element, then this isn't going to be the album for you. So that's all I'm saying, and that's all. But I think it's probably right to say whoever did the transfer. And again, when you master a tape and you master to analog, and your intent is to go to vinyl, once you put something in between that, the jury's out. There's just no doubt about it. And MoFi thinks that makes it better in their case. Well, maybe they've done a good job on some of the stuff. Obviously, the Dylans have been fabulous, for example. So it's not like it's flawed universally. It's just that maybe it works better for certain kinds of recordings and sounds than others. I don't know. I mean, this is a slippery art, would never end. So, okay. I'm just wanting to make sure I haven't. Yeah, well, digital is, it is ones and zeros. Do I know if Chad has heard this yet? I don't know if Chad has heard it. I shared my thoughts about it with him today, and he didn't say, "Oh yeah," or that's what I thought, or he just kind of like, "Oh really," kind of thing. So I don't. Oh yeah, kind of blue. Okay, yeah. So. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no, hey, go for going to Patrick. I mean, absolutely. I welcome any more ears on this. I mean, in some ways, I'd like to be wrong, because I'd hate to think that, that's out there and there's going to be a lot of people throwing even $30 at it. But I think, again, what people buy for the masses, they're going to compare this kind of and go, yeah, that's hot. I hate to say this, it kind of reminds me, kind of like when a girl's really good looking, but there's a lot of makeup. The old story about you could put lipstick and a wig on a pig and call it Mona, but it's still a pig. It's kind of like you can dress it up and it really looks good, but I just think that my ears are spoiled, or they're trained, or they're full of shit. I don't know what they are, but anyway, it just, and I've never really had that strong of a visceral reaction to something like, like what the hell happened? What, that was my first thought. My first thought was, what did I do with the volume? Right. Because I was like, this thing just came out at me like it's like a car coming down the road and you think he's going 10 miles an hour and all of a sudden he's on you. It was like that. It was like the thing just kind of, and I knew what I was looking for. Loud is good to people. Yeah, exactly. See, you remember what we had with the CD wars, right? With the loudness wars, right? That, that whole thing. It is a thing. And it's, like I said, it sounds hot. That was my word. I said they cut this thing hot. Yeah, and as people who maybe listen a little more discriminately, I guess, to things, sometimes you realize it's got to be a little quieter, a dB lower to pick up the nuances. Otherwise, stuff kind of gets, jumbled together. And ironically, even with this being more extreme, you still get some of the new nuances pulled out of it. So you can imagine probably what the Analog Productions is going to sound like, because it's going to probably not be nearly as muddled in that regard. So, mine's supposed to come between 9 a.m. and 2 tomorrow. So by tomorrow night, I hope to have something online. Good. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Novus Nick. I am talking about my impressions of the Geffen $30 release. My UHQR isn't due here till tomorrow. I saw somebody in Dallas said they got theirs earlier today. So maybe he'll, it's the digital release. Yeah. Talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I just, I was really surprised. You could tell that this effort to remaster this yielded some great work, some great Bernie Grundman type distinctions of things coming out in Dirty Work, in Kings, and Change of the Guard. All reeling in the years, every one has a distinct pieces of sound and nuance and voice that even Donald Fagen saying "Hey" in the background on a song that you rarely heard in the first original versions. So even through this, you can pick that up. So so to me, it's like, yeah, I'm really excited to hear. The others I've ordered are Asia and Gaucho, because those are my favorites. I may get Pretzel. I have all of them, but I just, certain ones are kind of worth the money to me. But let's see here. Yeah, well, yeah. If you have a link to that review, was it a YouTube review, Novus Nick? Because I'm sure they're all against that one, because nobody's heard the AP. It just shipped yesterday afternoon. I got my notice about 4:00 because I ordered mine in the first few minutes on day one. So I'm really interested to see what my number is going to be, just out of manufacturing sequencing curiosity with the order taking system. Not that I think the number means a damn thing, because it doesn't. But I'm not usually one to be, on top of that. But I'll tell you, the Beatles Revolver remix, it was made by GZ Media out of the Czech Republic. Same kind of surface noise, same kind of stuff. Okay, that's just, there's no higher end vinyl being used. It's a regular pressing plant, high volume. You read it. Okay, I didn't read any, but you're right. Again, the average person is going to say, man, I hear a lot more things that I never heard before on this cut, on this pressing. True, 100%, 1,000% true. I don't argue that one bit. And it does, that aspect of it sounds amazing for what's there. But the way it's delivered in terms of the amount of punch or in your face that it has. In other words, dynamic range is, it's having that range, having from the low to the high and that frequency range, right? And doing that. But that doesn't make it louder. What they can do is compress, bring the top down and the bottom up, and then add the decibels to make it louder. And that squish is what gets louder. And that's more what it sounds like to me. So it's like the bass, it's a little bassier, but it's not reaching down. It's flat. You could tell it's kind of cut off. And I know there's more to it than that, more depth to it than that I'm hearing. Yeah. Yeah, the OGs they're good. I'm not saying they're fabulous recordings. I think Asia was a pretty damn good recording. I think Gaucho is probably the best of their recordings. The actual recording is phenomenal. But and Can't Buy a Thrill is, it was their first, and it wasn't, it was probably average or above average. But a good clean press of it does sound good, but this will definitely sound more exciting. But like I said, it was very fatiguing to me very quickly. Yeah, I get it about buying another copy. I think like I said, the UHQR for me is. That's the holy grail, and I'm glad that Chad's doing it versus other labels, because I know his passion for it. And it really took a Chad to do it, in my opinion, because I think what Steely Dan and their agents and talent people and label were asking to do this, Chad was the guy who would make it happen. I'm just going to say this in general. People don't really understand fully or appreciate what it takes for a business to make this kind of investment. It's like a capital investment, but it's not capital like machinery, but it's material investment into the product and the source and the contract that you have to pay to do this. And the price of entry is very high. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why, the higher dollar ones go first, because they have to try to recover as much of that investment, the return on investment that they can, because that's sunk money. That money's going to them, whether people buy the records or not. And so we have to recognize that at the end of the day, it's a business, Yeah, Bernie, yeah, he didn't cut it. Nope, he did not cut it. He did a mastering for it, probably one and done, I would imagine. And they took it, and their guy did it, and whatever they did to it in between, whatever kind of file it came in on, I have no idea. I don't know. We don't know any of that. And that's what's interesting. It's, we want the transparency, but it's a $30 record. Who gives a shit, right? Who cares? It's $30. Just buy it, listen to it. It's over. There's nothing to really talk about. But we're talking about it only because it's kind of like, ouch, that hurts. I'm saying that. I'm just saying that. Yeah, they are from a digital. Yeah, they are digital. They're, no doubt. Bernie handed them the master, and the file was sent to a high-res. The mastering was sent to a high-res file. That's what Universal got. They didn't get anything analog. And then their guy cut the lacquer. Different person. Forget the guy's name. They bragged about what it was, the guy's name. I'd never heard of him, to be honest with you. But let me see if I have that written down. Oh, man. I'm just looking at how many releases of this album I have. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know that I put it in my, I didn't put it in my Discogs yet. I think the guy's initials are AA, but anyway, he mastered it, but we don't know what he did to it. And it's mass production to them, right? This is like, get it out. We'll sell a lot of them. Everybody's been waiting. That's great. $30. Chad's, he's got his customers. We got ours. Everybody happy? Okay. Fremer thinks the OGs are all we need. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I will say that after you hear this, if you hear what's been drawn out of this through remastering, you might think differently. That's all I'll say. It's revealing. I'll say it's revealing. Whether you like it or not, or think it's better or not, okay, that's an opinion. But it is revealing. There are differences that are of value, that are of sonic improvement, that are of sonic enhancement, things that you didn't hear as well that you can hear now. There is that. Even in this annoying kind of compression, probably you still can tell it's there. The irony of it is, when I had this playing and it was so kind of up in my face, I kind of walked out and went in the other room, and I was cleaning another record, and it took some of the pressure off of my ears listening to it. And I could hear in the other room better the better parts of it, or the parts that sounded better, because it wasn't in my face as much, ironically. So it was kind of interesting in that regard. Because I don't know about you guys, when I listen to music, I kind of stand there or sit there and I kind of listen to the music. But I had to kind of leave the room. Do you think noticing the difference between... Oh, there we go. Hope you don't mind me doing this. I'm just figuring this out. No, I don't think it will. Music in the House. I don't think it will. I mean, will it be more pronounced on a $50,000 system versus a $2,000 system? Yes. Will you be able to tell the difference on both? Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, my system isn't that expensive. I mean, but my speakers are $500 a pair. I have two of them. My turntable's $400. My cartridge $250. My amp $300. I mean, I'm not into thousands for each item here on my system. So no, you don't. I mean, that's great if you can do that, but you can tell the difference. There's no doubt. Oh, Steve Cassidy, you unknowingly made a hell of a great mistake. I'm dying to get hold of one of those. Please somehow let me know what you see or put some. I don't know if you're on the Analog Productions Facebook group. If you put something up there, or even send my emails in my about on my channel, you can send me a note. I'd love to hear that because I've never heard the Speaker's Corner to know. Yeah, sound quality or better is very subjective. That's right. Yeah. Send you the LP. If I get rid of it, okay, that's a deal. If I get rid of it, Novusnik, you got it. Okay, another speakers. Man, I just didn't know the Speaker's Corner. I didn't know of Speaker's Corner when it came out, to tell you the truth. Oh, here's an interesting comment. He heard the remastered MQA version on Tidal. So you've heard it in the last few days, I assume, Andrew? Initially impressive, but then a little fatiguing after a while. Yeah. And now I will say that some of the lighter songs were not as fatiguing. But man, Do It Again coming out of the gate, out of the jump. Wow. Yeah, it was. Hey, Steve, how are you, buddy? Glad to see you're on here. You get yours tomorrow. I do too. Yeah, you got a Speaker's Corner. Good to hear that. I don't, unfortunately, but yeah. Oh, you get your 33 tomorrow. Okay, you don't get the 45. Okay. Yeah, I get my 45 from Chad tomorrow. So yeah, let me know what you think. I mean, like I said, I didn't even plan on coming on tonight, but I mean, it was just bugging me. I just felt like I needed to talk about it. This is therapy, guys. I appreciate you. Steve had a great show on Friday. That was good with Kevin Gray again from Coherent. Nice job. And let's see, who you had another interview too. You've just had so many lately. I can't even. Oh, the guy who did the mono mix for Sean McGee. Yeah, who did the mono Revolver remix. Yeah, that's great. Changing DVD. Yeah, there's a whole set of impacts that occurs on that. You know, when you change that decibel level. The more you tweak it that way, you really start getting some unintentional consequences, I guess I'm going to call it. Oh, that's great, Steve. I don't know if you were on earlier, but I did an interview with Kai Seaman, the president of Speaker's Corner, yesterday, and I'll be posting that in a few days. And interesting guy, really nice gentleman. Really had a nice conversation with him. Yeah, Steve Westman. Just a shout out to his channel, The Audio Files. He has been a great friend to me. He talked to me early on when I was just getting my channel started. Gave me some great advice and some hooked me up with some people. And right when the MoFi thing was getting started, and so Steve, as always, I always am very thankful for your friendship and for what you've helped me with. And great to see your channel growing and some of the fabulous interviews you're getting. Okay. But I'll bet you he doesn't like Tool. Oh, okay. This is why you said that. You know, that almost makes me hopeful, Andrew, because then it's kind of like, okay, then I'm probably going to like the Speaker's Corner version, I guess. Yeah, I got to put this up here because I'll have to hold myself to this because I told Novus Nick, if I get rid of this album, I'm going to send it to him. So and I keep my word. Yeah, I think that's true, Steve. I think that's where he would have started. But I think, as we know with Chad, they went at Can't Buy a Thrill 7 times. I don't think that necessarily the one that Universal got, was the one Chad got, because I'm thinking those were two separate contracts, two different customers, Universal being one and Analog Productions being one. So Chad, I talked to him today. He didn't really have any idea how they got what they got from him. So I don't think, but I think you're right. When you start, I'm sure that's how Bernie started. I have no doubt, and I'm guessing that probably Universal was like, okay, you got the master, give me it. I'm done. You're done. That's it. Whatever his first shot was, I'm probably thinking that's what that was. There you go. I knew it was AA. I knew it was an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So pressed at precision. Yeah. The pressings. Yeah. I got two really bad loud pops, almost skips in the beginning of Do It Again in the first minute. Very annoying. Cleaned it. Can't get it out. Surface noise, inner wall. You can hear the next song starting. All the, standard stuff. But of course, I didn't think the Revolver remix pressings were very good out of GZ either. So I can't say. Could it be? I don't know if I can show this one. Yeah. Which one was I looking? I had one. I was going to bring it up. Could it be possible he just used the digital transfer from Bernie? Yeah. I mean, yeah, he could have just taken it raw, but I don't. I don't know. I mean, he could have taken it raw and then boosted it somehow to get it, to the cutter, boosted it to put it on to cut the lacquer, wanting it to maybe be a little more high energy, whatever you want to call it, loudness wars kind of thing. I don't know. The people who, I'll just put it this way, and this is not to cast aspersions against digital versus analog or anything, guys. This is just to say that people who grew up with, learned in, and were on the digital space, they, I think, approach some of this stuff differently. I think their customers had different expectations. I think they've grown up with a different outcome expectation and product expectation than guys like Bernie, Kevin, guys that have been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years, where they are much more nuanced. Some of the digital stuff is kind of like slab it, get it on there and go, and or make it loud and get it out, whatever it is. And I know bands. I've talked to guys who are in bands and they're sound guys. I mean, that's kind of like, that's their philosophy, because they think that's what their customers and the people who are their fans wanted. So sometimes mixing these worlds causes a little bit of this kind of a situation. Not knowingly, it's just the nature of the beast. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love the names of these plants. Precision. We have the best surface noise. We got it down. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, I'll be clocking that. I'm ready for that. Yeah. So that's a great a point. But yeah, I do intend to do that, because I do, like when I A/B stuff, I do The first thing I do is, when you're going to listen to it, you want to level match them for listening comparisons. But to compare the pressings, you leave the volume the same and see which one sounds louder than the other initially. So, excuse me. Yep, saw that one. Let's see what we got here. Yep, Leland, that was 7 times. I think somebody answered who's mastering, the guy AA. Though mastering is Bernie did the master, handed it off on a digital file for the lacquer to be cut. So yeah. Yeah, this is more where I'm at right here. Alex's. That's more like what I'm thinking is exactly the case. Okay, first score of the game. Novus, are you a Phillies fan or just? No, I don't blame that on Canada, Steve. I blame it on GZ Media because I think they just maybe have lower quality standards. I guess I don't know any other way to put it. Fighting some allergies, guys, and that's what. Thanks, Steve, for looking that up, though. By the way, I appreciate it. I'd seen it earlier today. Well, if somebody hit a home run, that means there's not going to be any no-hitter. I guess that ends that. Chad is why we. Well, I consider some of my nice things some of Chad's records, so kind of a mixed bag. But you blame Chad for putting a clause in the deal that only his could be AAA. Well, I'm sure there were elements of this, that there had to be some distinctions on how this was put together. I mean, it's a pretty different kind of arrangement when you think about it, because there's kind of like competitive elements here going on, and the synchronization of the releases being the same, and everybody's hitting the market at the same time. And Chad obviously has his niche, but he couldn't. He's not going to hit the sweeter spot of the niche, which is the non-UHQR 2x45, until he sells out of that title in the UHQR. And then the quantity of those went up from 15,000 to 20,000 on all but Asia, which went up to 30,000. And so, it's just a very, I say complex isn't the right word, but it's unusual. It's an unusual arrangement. And Steve, I don't know if you're still on, Steve Westman. Does this seem like a little bit of a different kind of situation, the way this thing came down with both labels going at the same time? And it just seemed very weighted in terms of the approach, very intricate. But Irving Asimov, who is the same manager as the Eagles has, he's pretty much a negotiating king. You could expect nothing else from that. Oh, here's a comment. Good. Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about the SACD. Now, the physical album had a lot of defects from what I understand. But the SACD, I've got the Dark Side of the Moon 5.1. I don't care for Animals as an album. I just doesn't do anything for me. And I like Pink Floyd, but that one just doesn't do it. Oh yeah, that is in the contract. I remember. Yeah, that of course it was. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yeah, music, yeah, everything. Sports is business. I mean, they're all business, right? Universities a business, all right? They're all, everything's a business. You're right. It's a, um, yeah, it's just an interesting choreography between, I'll call it choreography between Universal, a major label, and a small label like Chad, relatively small label, and you know Becker's estate and Donald Fagen and Irving Asimov and the management company and all. I mean, a lot of moving parts. I mean, it's just an interesting thing, and it's probably more so for me because I was sitting there in the middle of when this was finally getting to where I think they were finally starting to set dates and really know what they were getting into the throes of the execution, I'd say. I noticed that the dead wax on here had a date scratched on it of like 6/29/22, which is I guess when that lacquer was made for that. So then it got pressed after that. So you're talking 5 months, 4 months, whatever, between that. But that was already the lacquer was in late June for that. Yeah, right. No, not going to be any tool UHQRs. That's for sure. Nah, there we go. Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line. Yeah. The older prints have more of the analog. So, Matt Gregory, you have the new 33 copy? So, you don't find it to be overly aggressive? I guess I'll call it, for lack of a better term. Oh, Homer's talking about the tool being the next. Mm, that would be about as far out of Chad's wheelhouse as I thought I could see him get. Yeah. So you said they had an original. Let's see which one I had out here. So you must be talking about the ABC box like that. Yeah, I've got a weird one. I don't know if it's in the stack, but it's like kids blocks. Like ABC blocks, that kind of thing. There's the yellow one from our friends in Canada. I don't know if Steve Westman's on here. Do you have the yellow one, Steve, from Canada? It was a yellow vinyl. So Homer's betting that it's tools next. These next two are going to be one band, three. Is this the one you're thinking is the 3,000 limited quantity? or 30. He's making 3,500, but the band's going to get 500 of them or so. So they'll end up selling about 3,000 of them, and they're going to go overnight. He's a diehard Tool fan. Okay, well, then you got me on that. I didn't realize that. If that's true, I'm a little shocked. But yeah, see, Chad threw me a bit because he was saying these next two announcements, and then he goes, "Well, those aren't the big announcements." And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Now I'm really confused because I didn't know we were going to have small announcements and then bigger I mean, I guess so. So I don't know what to count in any of this stuff. Traveling Wilburys, a box just came out by, is it Kraft? I've got it sitting over there. So I don't think it's going to be Traveling Wilburys. And I don't have any inclination about whether it would be Steve Miller. Well, AB 1006, that's the actual record number. I wonder is there anything else in the dead wax on that, is it a B1, A1, C1? What might be the other identifier on that? Because I've got quite a few Asias myself. Oh, see, I'm following. Oh, he has wrenches. Oh my gosh. Okay, gotcha. When I saw wrenches, I was thinking about this software with, how Rachel gives you wrenches. I don't know why my brain went to that. Okay, guys, you got me. Well played. But you guys are so easy compared to the morning show. Yeah, CCR he's done. I mean, that's what's kind of weird about it. So, hey there, how you doing? Yeah, your UHQR company. Yeah, yours is coming tomorrow. Mine says mine's going to be here tomorrow, Sunday, which is cool if it does come. I hope it doesn't wait until Monday or Tuesday because I'll be out of town. So if I do get it tomorrow, I will come on tomorrow night and give you some RE3. Okay, so that's a reissue. Okay. Oh, okay, Nick. Cool down. Take it easy, Nick. Rachel's a great person, though. I will say I had conversations offline, and she's a lot of fun. Great person. A lot of people are thinking Bob Marley. There was also Rush in the promo video. Some Rush stuff was in there too. Okay. Here's a great point on Asia. Later copies of AA 1006 ABs. Okay, gotcha. Anti-Astros fan. Oh boy. Well, I'm in the Dallas area, so we're supposed to not like the Astros because they're Houston, right? But Nolan Ryan's involved with that organization. I love Nolan Ryan. And when he left the Rangers, everything went to hell. So, yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, there's even more information. Yeah. Yeah, this is great information, guys. So today's kind of been a mixed bag. I mean, I some of you maybe that weren't on initially, the new press from Universal, I had trouble finding one because everybody was sold out, it seemed like. So I did find one through my buddy G.I. Sanders at NTX Vinyl. And, it's just this Geffen label is about as boring a label as you could get. And, but, the ABCs were kind of cool with the, orange and yellow, and then the blocks, and then the ABC logo. It's just kind of a little more historic, but I guess I don't know why they did that. I guess the other label doesn't exist anymore. So Rush would make sense. Well, Rush, like I said, I saw that in the promo video. Now, I also saw in the promo video, and I can say it now, in the promo video, Chad pulled out a Can't Buy a Thrill from a box on the floor by his office, which I sat right against when I was there myself, and he put it on a turntable to A/B it to a test pressing. And I slowed that video down and took it was obviously he was comparing Can't Buy a Thrill at the time. And then I used that snapshot in my thumbnail when I did my thing about his plant tour, about, his inside the business kind of video they did. And I did a kind of a manufacturing video on that, or discussion. And I used that because I told him when I got there, did you see that thumbnail I used? He said, no, I didn't notice the thumbnail. And he looked at it. He goes, oh, jeez. He said, was that in the video? I said, yeah, it was. I said, it was only on like a second or two, but I said, I as soon as that cover I know so well, it's, you could just flash it for a split second and I would get it. Oh, so we got some Rush fans. I will say Rush is kind of like, you either like them or you don't. And the reason is the lead vocalist's voice is so unique. I mean, it's so, it's either you really find it interesting and enjoyable, or you find it extremely annoying. I've never really heard anybody who just kind of goes, oh, they're all right. It's either like, I really like them or I really don't like them, and I like their music, but the voice just, now there was another group called Mahogany Rush. And was that, I don't know why I want to say there was a guy named Frank Marino that was the lead singer or something, but they were different. I kind of like them at the time. It was similar time, I think. So, but I don't know if anybody remembers Mahogany Rush. Well, I'd say that if you want to know anything about whether it would make a good UHQR, you're going to need to talk to mofi about doing a one-step, because that's a Sony, and I think they're pretty well the only ones doing Sony stuff, or at least they were. Now, whether Sony is doing any work with them anymore, I don't know. I don't know. Moving Pictures. Okay, I haven't listened to Moving Pictures, so it's Tool. He's back to Tool. I only think the only Tool here is me. I'm being the Tool in this whole discussion. I think that's what's the blue hype sticker on the albums behind you? Oh, well, I'm glad you have. Speaker's Corner Records. This is a company out of Germany who does reissues. And that's all they do is analog sources. They did have one, I call it a foobar, one foobar that happened, and it was with, yes, it was with this album. Now, why was it a foobar? Well, here's what happened, and since you all are so gracious to spend time with me, I'm going to tell you it's on my video, but I'm not going to be one of those guys that says, well, you'll have to watch the video. You can watch it if you want. I'd appreciate it if you did. But because I interviewed their president and yesterday, and I'll have the video up in a few days. But what happened was they were given an analog tape for this album, Eye in the Sky. They were given an analog tape to cut the lacquer to make the record. They signed the contract. They got ready. They got everything going and started. And then then they found out, oh, by the way, that's an analog tape, but it was recorded digitally and then mixed down to analog. And they were like already in process. So they had to come out and, it's on their website. It's even on Discogs. They had to say that's the one exception. And that's the reason for the exception. They wouldn't have done it. He said, I flat wouldn't have done it if I'd have known. He said, I didn't want digital anywhere in the chain at all, period. He said, they said, I'm getting the analog tape. That was the 2-track master from the mix down of analog multi-track. But other than that, so Speakers Corner's out of Germany. They are sold through Analog Productions. They have a fairly small catalog, and the only title they have that is exception to the all analog is this one, and it is. I did a shootout on this album, and it's terrible. This one, I mean, it's just, it's so obviously sounds bad, and I think, frankly, probably because the guy who cut the lacquer was, used to cutting true analog, but he didn't have true analog because it was sourced out of digital, so it really couldn't unbake the cake. But the mofi of that, the 2x45 of that, is fabulous. But again, it's digital, so I mean, it kind of works. But anyway, so yeah, I've been trying to get the impacts of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I have a thing with the in-groove to notify me if they ever get it. That's hard to find. If you tell me where you got it, or if they still have it, let me know. I have again, this is really, where is it? That one. It's really good. Earth, Wind, and Fire Speakers Corner is really good. I'd love to compare it. Are you talking here about Can't Buy a Thrill Sound Lab? Is that what you're talking about? Let me know. As Rachel would say, put your response in the comments. Put your response in the comments. Yeah, I'm not sure, Novus, if you so rude to do you mean to find out about or to tell honestly that the album that one really isn't so great? Well, it isn't. I told Kai Seaman, the president, I said it's the only Speakers Corner record I own that I can honestly say I don't like it. And he said, well, he said, well, if you got to pick one, that's the one, because and I said, I said, it's not because of that. It's just truly, it doesn't sound good. I think, now that I think about it, I think Michael 45, yeah, he did a comparison, and Speakers Corner was in that one too, and he was the same way. He was like, I'd never heard anything that sounded, everything else distinctly sounded so much better. It wasn't even close. So, so there's somebody that got into Russian, Steely Dan. So, well, maybe Chad will bring it home for you. Hello, Evan. Great to see you. Thanks. I'm better. I had a rough week. Really my allergies really went crazy on me, but Yeah, and the guy Kai Seaman, the president, the owner, nice guy, just genuinely a nice person. Really enjoy speaking with him, and he wants to talk more. I mean, he just we just lover of music, and yeah, this leading speaker's corner or anybody is rude. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, Kai really felt bad because I mean he called it a blemish, and I said, well, I said as soon as you knew it, you dealt with it. I said that's you did all you could do. I said you were given an analog tape. I mean, you know, that was in the day when we didn't know as much about all of the sourcing, and I mean it wasn't a lot of this wasn't as clear. And he said, yeah, I said it just. It's still, you could tell it still bothers him though. It's still, I do have Lou Reed. I got it. And that is unbelievable. You talk about taking a walk on the wild side. Listen to the bass in that one on Speaker's Corner. That is some good pressing. That is a good pressing transformer. Yeah, if you, and one thing I will note, because of the exchange rate between the euro and US, some of the albums that are like 45 euros or whatever, they're down in the mid 30s and low 30s in the US. So they're a good buy. As are UK. I mean, the dollar's really able to buy some good stuff this during this time. Wow. See, the first one I can understand somebody saying nice and loud. Very quiet GZ pressing. Yeah, when the music's blaring, and it's really loud. Yeah, you can't hear but between tracks or before the beginning of the first song, sounds like it's floating on a boat. Sound beats my original audio. Well, it yeah, it beats your ears into submission, I'd say. But there you go. I mean, that's yeah. Like I said, if you like it loud or hot, or I mean, it's going to sound. Yeah, I mean, you're going to say, yeah, that old that's boring. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But it's kind of like you ever had that experience? And I mean, being older, I know I have, but we used to buy 45s all the time, and you get the 45 usually first because it came out first, and 45s were kind of hot because they were made for radio and whatever. Then you get the album, and it would sound a little more tame, and you go, man, I like the 45 way better, man. It just rocks, and it's that kind of thing. And it is what it is. I mean, I'm not like I said, those are legitimate statements. Loud, yeah. I mean, it is. It's yeah. I mean, hey, I get it. Like everyone else, I love the sound from over. Yeah, Chris, I get what you're saying about the 45 RPMs. They don't. It's a pain in the ass, I guess, is the only way I can put it. But will we see them? Well, for Steely Dan, we know that we have the potential for seeing them, because as each title hits their total limited edition run, then Chad will be starting to spin up the 2x45. So you're going to see the cheaper version. But will you ever see a 33 on a UHQR for Steely Dan? I don't think so, because I think contractually they can't. Now, the Doors, I don't know what's going on with them. Totally different thing. I don't know. And it just seems like the Steely Dan thing's already kind of buttoned up in terms of the possibility. The Doors, I don't know if there was ever any similar kind of thing where they said, okay, Rhino's going to do The Doors 33, and it may have been the exact same type of arrangement, but we never got as much detail to know that. So let's see what Swix beds. Excuse me. Yeah, the MPEX version I hear is great of that. I want to get that. If I could find it, I just haven't been able to find it. Oh boy. Homer's tooling it again. Could Queen be the... Could it be? I guess could be. I don't know. Could be. I don't, I just feel like Chad wants to do something that is mainstream because it hasn't, how to put it, mainstream in popularity, but hasn't been done. And therefore, he can be the guy who's brought it out, uniquely. I think he wants that trophy. I use that word. I just mean I think he wants that on his mantle. I think he wants to be able to say, I got this out, and it's not like all these other people have done certain things. And Queen just seems to be has had a lot of incarnations, I guess. But it's, man, I am with you. I mean, stop making sense. I had a good friend in high school who turned me on to Talking Heads. And if Dr. Lund is on here, you remember Savas. It was Savas, of all people. And he turned me on to the Talking Heads through that movie. Went and saw that movie, and then I got the soundtrack. Talk about a soundtrack that doesn't sound like a soundtrack. Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, now I got to pull that album out and listen to it. Now you did it. Okay, thanks very much. But no, I really, that would be a great one. It's a great recording. Guess who's done Tool? Tool does Tool. What do you mean? I just saw a big old box set thing today, Tool thing. They just do their own stuff. Yeah, The Doors in 45 is incredible. I've got LA Woman, and man, yeah, it doesn't get any better. That's for sure. Doesn't get any better. Yeah, I'd say that the 45 RPM thing is, there's the other aspect of it, not just that, of course, the grooves can be spaced out a little bit from each other but they don't have to get that far down into the toward the center of the record where you're spinning faster, and you're literally, the bass isn't going to be able to be as strong or sound as strong, and you have a lot more difficult cut to do. It's just gives you a more even sound across the spectrum because you don't have to cut that far into the record. We had the same experience when you think about it. 12-inch singles, right? 12-inch singles, some were done at 45 RPM. And those suckers, man, you could, the width between the literal sound grooves was about as wide as the gap on some of the between tracks of a regular album. I mean, they were really, spaced out, and they could really cut some, really hot dance stuff with that. And that was to take advantage of what was needed for the sound, given the platform being mechanical, being vinyl. So, it permits an ideal kind of cut in spite of the physical limitations of vinyl. Okay, now you're going down another rat hole. Okay, Dream Theater. Okay, which is appropriately named because that would be a dream theater for that to be done. Absolutely. Yeah. The speaker's corner. This side. These things backwards. This sounds great. This one's great. Turn of a friendly car. Yeah, that one's great. No problem with that one. Yeah, for critical listening, you're right. I mean, I don't, like if I want to listen just to listen to, like, let's say the Eagles' first album, and I'm not really listening, I can just I'll put on my OG. But if I want to sit and critically listen to it, I'm going to put on the one step, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, it's not even a question, because it just sounds so much better. Okay. Which one do you need to get? You're talking about the Eagles? You're talking about the Eagles is probably, so those may be cheaper to get now. What's happened on the MoFis is the ones that are DSD, they've dropped, and the ones that are the true analogs still, previous releases, they've gone up. So it's a mixed bag with MoFi. But I'm going to go grab a couple of the records I got today just to share. No big whoops here, nothing huge, just so adding to my addiction for Steely Dan. I got another Steely Dan's Greatest Hits. Well, why did I buy another one? Well, $20, double album, Greatest Hits, and this is the double RL cut. It's a Robert Ludwig, both discs. So when I see those, I buy them. And I'll tell you why I buy them, because I get people who tell me, I can't find that. And so, I'll sell it to them. Not looking to make a bunch of money or anything. I just do it because I know somebody, I'm in a big city, I can find it. A lot of people can't, So, okay. Alan Parsons, SC is what you were talking about. Okay. First two Eagle 1-7. Yeah, this is where I'm at. Exactly where I'm at. You're in the same exact situation on the Eagles. Got a Who's Next? Now I have one of these. I have an MCA Audiophile Series 1, and I have an OG. This was an OG Decca, and it was a press that was I think one pressing before the one I got. So I decided to get it just for a comparison. Got an Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, clear vinyl. Didn't have that album, so I saw a clear vinyl made in Germany. I'm not sure if it was Optimal or Palace. I'll have to look it up. I got this, preparing for doing some shootouts. And you might say, well, why did you don't have Thriller? What is wrong with you? Well, I do have Thriller, but I have the CBS half-speed master of it. That's what I bought originally. I didn't buy the the regular one. I just because that came out at the same time. But this one is the infamous. It doesn't have Michael Jackson's co-production on the cover in the back, in between those two bottom lines. Then after the first release jacket, they all then had to say co-produced by Michael Jackson. So that was the other thing. And I got these two OG Capitals, stereo and a mono. Just wanted to have it for my collection. I just didn't have this one. I think I'm going to get one from Chad because whatever they have for sale for the Beach Boys right now is it. No more pressings. That's it. Contract is over. So I wanted to do some comparisons. So when I went to buy this at NTX Vinyl, they were at a festival. So I'm checking out, and the guy's looking at my albums and that, and he comes across these two, and he goes, "Oh, hey, you bought two of these. Did you mean to buy two of these?" I said, "Yeah, one's mono, one's stereo." He said, "Oh, okay. I didn't notice that." He said, "I just wanted to let you know." I thought, what a great retailer. That he kind of said that. "Oh, did you accidentally pick two of these up and didn't realize it?" I just thought that was a sign of good integrity. And again, that's NTX Vinyl. My buddy G.I. Sanders from there. You can buy a website, ntxvinyl.com, and he has 3 places here in the Dallas area. So. Yeah, that's strange. We did the same UHQR Steely Dan's. We did. Yeah, that's really funny. Oh, well. Yeah, the Beach Boys, I got NTX Vinyl. And like I said, he does have a website. And these were $10 each. And they're, I haven't played them yet, but I mean, I cleaned them. They look really clean. Covers are VG. I mean, they're not messed up. They're nice. Yeah, they have some nice used stuff actually. He runs a really good outfit. Oh yeah, he does do sales on YouTube. Yeah, NTX Vinyl. Yeah, GI does. Yeah, if you look in my history of videos, you'll see an interview with GI Sanders, probably in I don't know June or can't remember when, but I mean early on my channel. He was one of my early guests that I had because I got to know him through YouTube, and he's local and made a connection. So he's doing really well. Another big store here in Dallas, Josie Records. They have a huge store here. They're now going to add another store up in the McKinney area, pretty large store. So things are booming. No doubt, things are booming. Oh yeah, I saw those. Yeah. Yeah, I saw one of those at GI's place today, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, so it's hard to give a really hard, detailed impression of a record without listening to it yourself. I think, like I said, if you hear the new mix, I say mix, it's master. I shouldn't say mix and master and mix up to master. But some of it almost sounds like a remix, like I said, because some of the remastering is really that poignant. And like I said, the congas and all that in that early percussion, it comes off really like spatially, has a spatialness to it, like a openness, like it's almost like some of those instruments at first, when you listen to the OGs now, it sounds like they were recorded in a closet. And these sound like they were recorded in a big room, and you can hear the openness and the airiness of it. So that's kind of the comparison I can make. But again, if it's being as hot as it is, it kind of really is a little too intense almost for my ears. Let me see here. This is one I wanted to look at. That is a killer album, actually, and it's great. It's got a great instrumental on it too. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I haven't got mine yet. But I've heard it was really a pretty astounding improvement on that album, and it needed. I mean, I say it needed it. A lot of Toll albums, would benefit from it. Actually, as we saw with Aqualung, right? Wow. Okay, there you go. Yeah, when a song gets its own side. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's called dedicated wax. When that song gets that whole side, it's the how do I put it? The person that's cutting the lacquer, he or she, they have full freedom, to cut it right, to do it right, to not have any of the inhibitions that exist because of trying to lay, 6 songs or 20 minutes or whatever on a side. All of those inhibitions and physical limitations of the format are totally eliminated. And it gives them the freedom to really, carve that record, literally carve that image in an ideal way. And that's what's so amazing about it, because it really shows you what the format can bring to you, and it also shows you what the limitations are, given the fact that they try to cram as much stuff on there as they can generally, so. Oh, Riders on the Storm. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh. Shut the lights off, put on the headphones or put on the speakers, whatever it is, and just get lost in that for 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Ugh. See, us old DJs know the times because we knew how much time we had to go to the bathroom. See, you got to understand that's, anyway. I don't know that Aqualung will get I don't think by Chad. I think that's back in the Warner Electro Atlantic Rhino, because the Rhino is part of Warner Electro Atlantic, so it's part of that whole gizmo. So, and they do pretty damn good job with their stuff. Rhino has gotten very impressive. There's not, they're hiring good guys like Kevin Gray and Coherent, and some really good mastering places as well. So they're no slouches. I'm not saying they're going to beat anything at Chad's, but I am going to say, compared to this Steely Dan thing today, one of those is not going to knock me over like this one did. But again, I don't think they're using digital either. I think they're allowed to do all analog, no problem. Yeah, I don't know why that would be, but some things are just unique in their box and maybe the contents of the material. I don't know, something about it. So, just checking, make sure I hadn't missed any. No, I think we're getting pretty well. This has been great. Well, I hope tomorrow evening I'll be coming back and giving you a little bit of a report on the UHQR, hopefully. If it doesn't show up, I guess I can't, obviously, but I do want to probably won't be long, because I'm really going to be short on time after tonight because of getting ready for this conference and everything next week. But I am looking forward to hopefully getting my ears back by tomorrow, And but booklet and magnetic box. Okay, so, small X. Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that's what it had. That is so cool. Is that Dolby Atmos? Is that on a Blu-ray for writers on the Doors? Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate you joining. Yeah, I'm so anxious to hear it. You know, today was kind of a sideswipe in the sense that I didn't. It just happened, and I really. It's kind of like we get a bad taste of food, and you kind of want to go, oh man, I can't wait till I eat a nice steak and get that out of there. So, so I'm hoping that the steak. Yeah, I wondered about that. Okay, streaming on Apple. Okay, I wondered if I've been reading about people. Isn't that how they did? Is the Beatles Revolver that way, or isn't there something with Revolver? It's on Atmos, but is it only on Apple Music? Now that someone who was saying it was Tool was Homer himself, so never be misled. Um, he's made me the tool of the. He's made me the butt of the jokes of the Tool, I guess, but it's okay. uh, oh, Rumors is good in that. Well, I tell you, Rumors, the 2x45 Rumors pressed at Palace, needs to say that on the sticker, by the way, is unbelievable. That's another great one. By the way, I can't help but ask, and I know Novus Nick, you were on here earlier. I don't know if you were on the show then, but did anybody happen to experience the little kerfluffle between Mazzy and Michael 45 this morning on Rachel's channel? I happened to catch that. That seemed a little bit intense for a few minutes there. Got a little quiet in the gallery. Let's talk gear. Let's get out of this and talk about gear. On the SACD of Animals, somebody earlier said that they got it and it was fabulous, and I don't doubt it, because I know the 5.1 of Dark Side of the Moon's done real well. It was real good too. They've got a good arrangement there. Oh, you got on the stream too late. Yeah, well, I caught it. It was, I guess Michael was saying, he was clarifying that the reason he doesn't respond to peanut gallery comments or questions to him is while other people are presenting something or whatever, he doesn't want to. It's kind of like interrupting virtually, and he doesn't like to do that. And it was kind of like he said something to Mazzy about, like, unlike you when you did that, and something with Stunty, and he started to tell a story, and then Mazzy broke in with some other info on it and kind of didn't give the story a chance to go in its own direction, and then they started saying, oh, it was crazy. You never know what you're going to get, right? Beware when you're on the internet. I try to keep my stuff a little lower key if I can. I'm on a 8-week hiatus with the waxed. Therapy's going wonderful, so everything's just great. So I don't have to worry about that right now. Everything's kind of cool. So yeah. Oh, so the Blu-ray is your go-to version on that. Okay. I don't know if I have the Blu-ray of that one. I don't think I do. I have the 4-channel album from Germany. I've had that for a lot of years. I don't know if you've ever heard the first mix of Dark Side of the Moon. Alan Parsons, the first mix that they did. And then they, made some enhancements and changes. But it has structurally, it's very similar, but there's a lot of things that aren't quite as matured in it. It's interesting from a evolution standpoint. I really like obviously the final product, but it's just interesting from how it grew and how it evolved. But Dark Side of the Moon was always built to be a multi-channel recording from the jump. So that's why those are so easily. Pink Floyd was big into multi-channel at that time. Yeah, the Wall. Yeah, oh gosh. Yeah, man, that would be nice. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because is that newer one that came out? I know it's an older album, but did it just come out in the last year? The self-titled, because I've got the mofi of it, and it is unbelievably great. So it's one of those. And that's a great album. Rhiannon and Over My Head. It's a great album, but the mofi of it, that's an early mofi, like -008 or 015. It's a very early mofi. I have that one, and it's like I said, it's a great one. This is weird because here you are. This is the third thing now. I have the Dark Side of the Moon from AP that I bought when it came out, and I haven't opened mine either. This is weird. And since I'm adopted, I just tend to wonder if you're really in my family somewhere, and I just don't know it. So that's the third thing tonight. We had similarity on. Wow, that's spooky. Wow. Okay. I have to search that one out. Yeah, I was born in Canada, so maybe that'll eliminate it right away. I'm a transplant adoptee into the United States, so I'm 100% French Canadian. So that may knock it all out right out of the box. Oh, the immersion one? Okay. That's good. Well, Pink Floyd's one of those bands that's made for multi-channel, right? I think most of us could agree that just, stylistically and everything, they're made for that. So, we do these. I mean, I don't have a problem with some of you folks that I know that we've been on before and whatever. If you ever want to jump on, the feed and like on Rachel's channel, we can do that. I'm using StreamYard as well, so I have to get used to adding people or that kind of stuff because I'm not haven't done it, but I'm more than open to it. I don't necessarily need to hog a screen. That's not my objective, but I'm going at this a little slow just to learn my way. You say your dad's from Texas. Oh boy. To get him in trouble. Yeah. Of course, I don't know what our ages are, so I don't know if that's good. Yeah, my dad from what? My dad. Dad? That's funny. When people used to ask Dad, how many kids do you have? He'd say, in what state? Oh, too funny. Let me see what this question is here. Wondering if the dedicated wax. Okay, maybe that's a term maybe I'm not sure what that means. If you could tell me what that means. Dedicated wax. Like this album is dedicated to Chad Castle? No. Etched by Bernie Grunman? Uh, I I'm going to have to be very careful tomorrow when I get mine and open it because I know I'm going to be pretty excited to get it on the turntable. But I'm going to have my cleaner ready and have everything ready to go so I can go through the correct process before I get started and not get too tempted, tripping all over myself. The clickbait. Oh, okay, hang on. No, you see, here's the irony of that thumbnail. What I meant to send the message of is that is everybody's asking the question, is the new release worth $150? In other words, is the UHQR worth it? And my first question I had to get answered in my own mind is the $30 one even worth it? Because it wasn't. To me, it wasn't. It was $30 wasted because it was so bad for me, what I thought in terms of how poor it sounded. So I'd rather, like I said, I'd rather spend $150 for something that's good than $30 for something that's bad, because there's no value. I want to get rid of that what I have, but it's just really short of a comparison specimen to say this is how bad something can sound if it's not mastered properly. That would be its value to me. So if it came across that way, then I guess I was thinking differently than that. It's definitely worth. Tomorrow's is going to be probably a similar image, but say it's worth the 150. So I mean, I'm hoping I'm going to say that. Let's put it that way. I won't say it if I don't believe it, though. I can tell you that. I won't say it if I don't believe it. But Chad will have la splaining to do, because I really, I mean, I have every confidence it will. I know what kind of work's gone into it and what he's expected and what his nuances are, and his nuances are very similar to mine in terms of that album. So I think we're kindred spirits when it comes to that album. Yeah, ABC gatefold. Some had the ABC logo on the top, and some didn't. So it's a variety of different ways that they released it. So trying to see if there's this one here. Well, microphone. That one there, it has in the corner ABC Records there, and then the number up there. And then this is like the other one behind it. That's the European Probe Records. So And then even the reissues that had the, like this one's a yellow ABC label, the orange, and that it even had the ABC on there as well. So I'm sure they made a ton of those. There you go. Yeah, it's a Christmas present, that's for sure. Yours has both. Good. You're there. You're in good shape. But the difference, even with this 33, from Universal, the differences are pretty stark. I mean, they're pretty sonic. They're pretty impressionable. Um, it's the delivery of them through this version, whether it's the digital or whatever. It's just, but I mean, they're there, and so I can, people are going to say, yeah, this sounds more exciting than the original. It has more depth. It has more inflection. Has more soundstage. And it does. I mean, it does have those elements present, but they're delivered in a way that masks their beauty and masks their strength and quality to a point of it having that fatiguing kind of sound. That's what I'm saying. But to sit here and say, does it not sound better than the original? Yeah, the elements in it are better. The mastering has pulled out and extracted nuances, which are exactly what you want when you're saying, hey, this is new, this is better. Oh, this is nice. This is I'm hearing things I never heard before. I'm understanding words better than I heard, or I'm hearing a voice that I hadn't heard, or instrument that I hear more distinctly, some bass and some guitar, especially on dirty work I could hear. But then that sax thing, it's good for part of it, but then when it gets a little low, it loses it, right? And I know that was a thing that Chad was really looking for in his re requests of new lacquers for test pressings. He knew what he was going for. So it is um, a more distinctive difference. It's much more distinctive than, in my mind, the Revolver, even the remix. And the reason is the Revolver remix. I mean, it's like Taxman, for example. If you really want to hear Paul's bass work much more distinctly than ever before, that's the mix for you. It really, drew that out. It really drew it out. If you thought that you needed more violin strokes coming at you in Eleanor Rigby, that's the mix for you. If that's, what, then that's, so these elements are, a remix is going to have a lot more possibility to reimagine. A remaster usually can't do as much, but this remaster for Steely Dan's Can't Buy a Thrill, even in the digitally sourced to lacquer format, has a much more modified sound signature than one would normally pick up for simply a remaster. Yeah. I should have known that's what that meant. I wasn't putting two and two together. I don't know that it will. All the songs on that album are relatively short, and there's, 10 of them? Is it 10? You should know that by heart, right? Yeah. I don't think any of them are long enough to justify one song per side. No, I tend to not think so. How the turntables, I like that. So you were waiting for a high-end pressing. Well, now you got 40,000 choices. I do have that one on order. I left it on order. It's a 33 RPM, $100. So you don't have to get up. You can sit there and see if, I mean, it was a very well produced album, very well engineered album. Bruce Schneiden was the engineer. That guy, yeah, he would push it. He would push it. Metallic. Yeah, so Thriller, I'm looking forward to Thriller. No doubt about that. I am. Just from I say curiosity, or how much more could they, get out of this? Because it's pretty well recorded. The one I have is the half speed of CBS, and the CBS half speeds they were using digital in that process. That was one of their claim to fames early. Back in the day, everybody thought, when digital came in, when you had digital, it was like, ooh, this is digital. Oh, no, this is top shelf, So it kind of it mesmerized most people at the time. So I guess the question I have now is, so now that the turntables on the table turns, are you going to get the Thriller finally, or wait for even a higher level audiophile version? What say you? Yeah, Thriller's a great sounding album, no doubt. It's a great sounding album. And it's got some really good music on it. There's no doubt. Off the Wall was, it's hard. One of those is, was it better? It was better because it was newer. It was fresher and more unique at the time. Because Thriller was a follow-on to Off the Wall. Off the Wall was like, whoa, that's like Off the Wall. But it was like that was very. It was a flip for Michael to really. He really made a new stand as to who he was and how he recorded, and obviously Quincy Jones was a big part of that. So we pre-ordered immediately. Okay, I did too, and I left that one. I left that pre-order. I definitely did leave it. Unlike my Van Halens, all gone, and only kept a few of the Eagles. So yeah, that was decision that had to be made. November 20, is it 18th? November 18th? Yeah, maybe it's November 18th. This is a release date, so a couple weeks. Won't be long. That's why I got that. I got that other OG there today, because I didn't have a non-half speed master version. I realized back then I was buying the CBS half speeds exclusively when they were coming out at the same time as the regular release. They were like $12.99. The regular release was like $8.99. So it was like, well, buy the stuff the big boys buy, right? Yeah. So that was the size of it. Well, great. Well, this has been an interesting 2 hours and 10 minutes, and StreamYard stayed up and didn't kick me out or anything. I was able to to get it on better than usual this time. So maybe it's getting a little easier. So yeah, tomorrow evening, hopefully I'll be coming back and putting something up to kind of share with you my first impressions on it. I definitely am going to be having some comparison thoughts. There's no doubt now that I've had the one enter my mind, you know. Yeah. 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 I'm sure there'll be a lot of comparison videos. It was like the Revolver video. You know, there were so many of them out there. I started to record. I literally did. I recorded the surface noise between the songs on my OG and my OG mono and my mobile fidelity and my remix. It was like, I mean, the mofis obviously were really quiet compared to everything else. I'm like, oh, that's silly. But it was an exercise. I was like, yeah, nobody talks about surface noise. I mean, I guess I'm the only person that talks about surface noise, but it kind of just for me, when I put a record on and it starts before the first song, and then you're listening to that, and that's your first impression. And then especially if the album has like a quieter start, and you can still hear it a little bit, and eventually the music and voices or whatever overtake it. But it's kind of like, wow, there you go, that's the format. That is a difference between digital and analog. We can never ignore that, but that's why these vinyl compounds, I mean, I'll say, the super vinyl compound from MoFi on like the ELO Eldorado, it's great. I think that David Crosby has it as well. A few of those ones, a super vinyl, those are really good, really quiet. So yeah, there shouldn't be any surface noise, period. I hear that, but I will tell you, the compound is the compound. It's PVC, and the diamond is the diamond, and it's diamond, and it's the two are living in a non-compliant universe of each other, and so it really takes those formulas to really find a PVC combination that doesn't make that automatic noise level, that it has a way to overcome that. It's just it's reserved for very, very, yeah, well, it should obviously be better than it was in the past. I mean, I think that's true, but the quality of materials that are used, and this is true for anything, whether it's metal, or whether it's plastics, any kind of raw materials, the quality of it and price paid for it, and they all have a relationship, and there's compromises that are always made, and these formulations like Clarity Vinyl or like Super Vinyl are very specific engineered chemical elements to overcome the physical limitations and properties of those elements. And again, as you know, with vinyl, there's your setup. There's all sorts of, there's your vertical tracking angle. There's height adjustments. There's all sorts of other considerations that add to or take away from, the amount of noise you're going to get. So those things are also part of the equation. But when you take the same exact system, turntable, the stylus, and you play, 3 different records, and one's a very super compound made to be quiet versus the others, and you can notice it just flat out audibly, then you know that, something is being done differently there. Now you can argue, why aren't they all using that compound? But one of the reasons is that they're more expensive, and that $30 album costs $45. That's why. Because 97 out of 100 people who buy that album don't give a damn. They could care less. So, bioplastic records don't get popular. Well, I haven't heard any of those, but I've heard about them, but I haven't seen anything beyond hearing about them. Yeah, I know the difference between those two. I mean, surface noise to me is you can hear the needle in the groove, and it has some sort of variance, even a little bit with it as it goes into the record, but it's not the hiss of the tape, which is more of a constant. But you're right. There's a Thriller canceller. Okay, well, I respect that. I did a lot of that myself. Knowing that this was a Sony title and it was never going to get out any other way, I just kind of said, well, that's a function of the label at that point. I don't see Sony getting all into making anything all analog. They're about mass production. They're about promoting their own engineering platforms, which is what's really started this whole thing, because Sony sold Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs up on DSD back in 1998 before they went bankrupt. And you'll find it on Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever gold CD. That was where the first use of that ultra analog thing, now they call ultra analog 2, was really started. So that kind of, I think what happened is they were kind of, I think, a beta probably for Sony, and Sony probably introduced it to them and brought them into it at a very low, if any, cost level to get them seeded into that, so that Sony could say, see, Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs is using our system, and look at how great it is. Well, they went belly up within a year of that, not because of that, but it just unfortunately was bad timing. So when Music Direct bought them, they had the roots of that already planted a bit on the digital side, no less. But I'm sure at some point, somebody from Sony said, well, you could just as easily take the tape and, you're going to get it to this format anyway. Why don't, that's going to be playable over and over again because it's digital. Why wouldn't you hold that as a repository and then cut your vinyl from it? And so I'm thinking that's, where that got seeded. And then 2007, at least right now, it looks like Natalie Merchant's Tiger Lily looks like the first DSD 64 or 1X oversample, which is the same as a SACD LP, was released in 2007. It appears to be the first one. And it got rave reviews, and nobody was any the wiser. And then I guess the next one wasn't until 2011. So they waited a bit, it seemed. Maybe they were waiting for it to, maybe get another generation or two update from Sony. And then they started using it. I guess that Tony Bennett, Left My Heart in San Francisco, was the next one. And then from then on, it became more and more normalized. So I think we all debated about what to do. And again, I did some and not others. Um, and I am a believer in if it sounded good before, it sounds good today. Nobody's going to get me to say, hey, the Eagles self-titled release really sounds crappy because it was DSD. When I knew very well on day one when I first got it and listened to it, I thought that is the best I've ever heard this album sound. And that remains the same. Now, would it have sounded better if it had been pure analog? I don't know. Have no idea. Have no idea. It's not to be known, I guess, because it just didn't happen that way. So I'm at peace with the fact that they did it in the sense that they wanted to do it and it was a business decision, and they had reasons and merits in their own mind. It's all about being open about it and letting people know at the time what you're getting and what you're not getting. That's all. But then again, they never told us when they stopped doing half-speed mastering either of albums. It just stopped. We stopped seeing the label. We assumed it was still there and just didn't, but it was kind of like whatever happened to halves. It's kind of like when Harry on Harry's Music sometimes said, "How long has Michael been gone from the show?" It's kind of like when did that disappear, right? Yeah, I don't think it's quite as simple as saying the other labels are all doing it. So here's the issue: they built their bread and butter was built on original master recording, that nomenclature. Their material all said taken. I mean, their early material said taken from the original master tape, not a first copy, not a second copy, not a third copy, and cut from that original master tape. Okay, that was who they were, and that was their bread and butter difference in the market and justification for the price they charged. So if they were going to change that, they simply could have said, we're looking at this technology and here's why. A lot of the tapes we're getting are compromised. This will secure those tapes in the best condition they can be. We are not able to get as many of these from the label anymore to have brought to us. So, getting those captured now is becoming quite a challenge. So this provides a mechanism. I mean, they could have just said, this is what it is. So, you know, when you say referring to the sound quality, um, I mean, my argument isn't about the sound quality at all. Mine's about the transparency and the business. Totally. They, as I said earlier, I don't know that going straight from analog to that, from the Eagles would have sounded better. I don't know that factually. I don't have an A/B to be able to prove that one way or another. All things being equal, it probably should be, but all things being equal doesn't always happen. And every time you run a tape, you take a chance. That's the other thing about running tapes. When you run a tape and go straight to DSD, then at least that's it. The tape's volatility is taken out of the equation. Now we're dealing with a fixed thing that is repeatable, and so I get that. And whether it degrades the sound quality, there's a lot of people who listened to their stuff and thought it was great, and still should sound the same after they heard about it. But I saw Michael Fremer do a video on a Dire Straits before, and it was great. And now all of a sudden, not so good. Not so good anymore. That's a credibility issue at that point when you say that. That's a bridge too far for me. I'm sorry. I just that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, Dave, I get you on that one. I do get you on that. Um, I think one of the reasons it's a go-to for them anymore is the logistics side of it. And when you see my interview with Kai Siemens, who's the president of Speaker's Corner, which that is a Speaker's Corner record, as is this Alan Parsons. You'll understand maybe a little more. I mean, the bottom line, guys, is the labels are not given access to this stuff, the tapes. They're just not doing it. They'll do it rarely with certain very limited type people. And you know the names of the people, and I know the names of the people. And none of them work at Mobile Fidelity. That I will tell you. Okay. And I mean, none of them worked at Mobile Fidelity before this scandal. I mean, we're talking about the guys who are the veterans that have been around the 30, 40, 50 years that Chad is using. These kind of guys, Bernie, Kevin, those kind of people. Very limited, very limited. Ludwig doesn't do much anymore, I don't think, but it's very limited now. Sterling, right? It's, and even Sterling, when they were in New York, they could get it from Sony. Now they're not in New York. They're in Nashville. So, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different game. So this isn't about digital versus analog anymore. It's about, can you get something to make the record, or can't you get something to make the record? That's what it's getting down to. And, and a guy like Chad, his credibility and the people he uses are part of what's allowing some of this to still happen. Because without it, the handcuffs would be everywhere. And that's what's becoming more and more obvious to me, is that this is a shrinking competence. It's a shrinking trust. It's a shrinking element that the big labels almost don't even want to really be involved with as much, I don't think. And they own the product. That's the thing. And so they're driving the business. They're driving the market, and they're taking it away. And so you talk about take what you can get. I mean, the slim pickings are right there for you. That's what it is. That hype sticker, the new one, yeah, that hype sticker is like putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, come on. I say they need the whole chain. They need the whole chain, man, because you record it onto something, then you take the multi-track and then you mix it. Well, how do you mix it? Then it gets down from that mix to a whatever, 2-channel or whatever. So what got it to there? Okay, and then that's going to be what's used to decide how does it get out. How does it get out to get mass produced, right? Once it's there and it's going to get mastered, how does it get to that? And then once it's mastered, then where does that go to get cut? What's the format of that? So it's all of these steps in the food chain. McCartney 3. I have not been able to get over the fence on it. I guess I'm still on the fence. It's almost like I think I know it is what you say it is, but I haven't quite been able to get there. And I don't know if it's because I'm so enamored with Ram. Some of his earlier stuff that I really liked, even Wings Wildlife I really liked, which a lot of people don't like, but it was just very raw. I mean, the origins of McCartney with Linda, and I mean, it just has a certain, I don't know, magnetism to it with me, because they were like the perfect couple, it seemed like to me. And I know a lot of people think John and Yoko were the perfect couple, but I just never could wrap my head around that. But I just mean the music that was made then. And I guess McCartney 3, I guess it isn't quite in that same space for me. So it doesn't quite hit that sweet spot. Maybe I just got to give it maybe more listens, I guess, to be honest, Dave. But and I will do that. Now, I'm assuming you mean the original and not that reimagined whatever stuff, right? You're talking about his original, just to be sure. Going to DSD. No, I mean, it is a natural progression to combat the oxidization of these tapes. Okay, they are, the old joke about Mission Impossible. This tape will self-destruct in 28 years, right? Whatever. The tapes, they have an inherent, and not only that, the handling of tapes is terrible. I mean, you get the wrong person handling a tape and they could mess it up to where you never get it back. And that's one of the reasons the labels don't like just letting anybody get them. Definitely not. Yeah, I wonder who those labels learned that from, the analog master. Wonder where they learned that from, huh? I mean, if there's an analog master, then everything's from the analog master, right? I mean, it's kind of like you either have a digital master or an analog master. So if there's an analog master, then you can say that anything's an analog master. You can say, well, it was recorded digitally, but the 2-track that we delivered is an analog master. It's the 2-track master of the thing that was digitally mixed from the thing that was digitally recorded, right? So you're right. That's why the chain thing is so critical. What is in the chain? Maybe Dave's completing a thought here. I knew you had to be talking about the original, but I'm going to give it another listen, or a more objective listen, I guess. I guess I get nostalgic with McCartney and it takes me in a rabbit hole. So at least I recognize that about myself. So I got to do that. Hey, thanks for stopping in. I'm about ready to check out myself, looking at the witching time. By the way, most of us are setting our clocks back tonight, right? Spring ahead, fall back. So we go back an hour, we gain an hour's sleep. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I need that. So that's a good way to say it's getting to that witching hour. Dave says he's a bit of a MoFi apologist, but they poorly handled seam splits. Yeah, seam splits are, that is one that has lived long enough, and there's been enough time to, we've gone to Mars since then, I think, actually. So come on. I mean, I think we can, we can fix that. Package it differently, okay? Don't package it. Don't put the record inside do something. Gee. Yeah. So anyway, Dave, gang, thank you everybody for coming in tonight. I really appreciate your presence and your time. And I really hope to have some firsthand report on the new Analog Productions UHQR, $150 gladly paid, because I've been waiting for this. I've been saving money for 25, 30 years for this. So I had enough to get this. So I'll let you know. And I will tell you that tomorrow night, hopefully I will be able to say you can buy a Thrill. And it's available at Analog Productions at Acoustic Sounds right now. But anyway, thank you all. Have a great evening and a great Sunday. And we'll talk to you tomorrow, hopefully. Take care. Thanks for joining me on this audio excursion. Bye-bye, everybody.